Hi guys, welcome to week 20 of our Kings Road 6-bed HMO project. So this is the one we're project managing. Now, over the last few weeks, we've had to take the property off the previous builder. There was a few issues with him. We weren't very happy with his performance or his work, basically. We've given it to our normal builder, so our regular builder, who has come in, done a cracking job. He's pretty much just fixed everything. Ashley will talk to you more about that sort of process. I think more or less everything's been is in now. It's just the finishing touches like lamps, light bulbs, and stuff like that. Okay, so I'll spin the camera around and Ashley will talk.
Thank you very much, mate. Chair. So what we're going to do, as Tu just mentioned, the property now for the most part is complete. We've got 95% of the furniture in. There's just a few sort of small minor details that we need to look at. A couple of things that our builder and handyman are also going to finish up. So we're pretty much done, aren't we, Tu? It's literally into the last few days of just the last few dressings, the last few bits of snagging. As Tu mentioned, we've had to take this property off the previous builder because he didn't end up finishing the job. What it also meant as well is because of sort of the ongoing situation, it sort of meant that we had to go and look back at the work that had previously been done and completed, just to ensure that it was all compliant, and there were some issues with compliance in certain areas. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to spend too much time in the rooms because we'll do that next week when we sort of do our final walk around. But what I'm going to try and do more so is just highlight some of the issues that we actually had and just some of the small things that we would like to see in a property as normal that were either missed by the previous builder or just not done to how we wanted.
And this is just like normal headaches that you'd have.
Exactly.
As project managing, really.
Exactly. So what I'll do is I'll show you into one of the rooms now. As you guys know, for what we do for the most part, it is a carbon copy. So we try and make things as easy as possible in terms of, dressing the rooms, getting the rooms to a certain standard. Some people may see it as a little bit boring at times, but it allows us to run multiple projects. It allows us to deliver multiple projects for investors at the same time because everything pretty much is automated. So in terms of this room, fairly straightforward. There's not really too many issues in this room, so we're sort of good to go. One thing that I will look at is the hinges. So you guys would have seen maybe from a Facebook Live that I've done or a couple of videos that in some parts in this property we actually had hinges that didn't have all the screws in. Some we found to actually be incorrect hinges, and when we took it over from the previous builder, the intromescent strips hadn't actually been put in. They were provided, but they were the wrong size, so we had to go out and get the right size intromescent strips and fit them correctly.
Yeah, that's just poor workmanship, really.
Exactly. Step into room 2. Now again, you can see pretty much carbon copy, so there's not much that is really going to change in terms of the aesthetic look, so it's pretty straightforward. Now, one thing that the previous builder did is, you guys would have remembered there was a single glazed window which was actually bricked up by the previous builder, but it wasn't insulated, there was no plasterboard and it wasn't plastered. So you can see now our builders come in, put the correct insulation in, plasterboarded over it, plastered over, and obviously this is just waiting to get a little paint. So we'll walk in. So, walking into the dining room now, you will see we've got a handle here, which is now non-functional, but what we've got is push and pull handles. Now, as you guys know, in terms of a fire, in event of a fire, don't want to be playing around with that. Potentially could get jammed, anything could happen, it could seize up potentially. Where you've got push and pull, just makes it fairly straightforward, and that's what you want for fire compliance effectively.
Is this the previous builder put the handle things?
Handles on, yeah. So, got the boiler in here, up and running. We've just popped this in here for the moment, but you guys probably would have remembered when I showed you this boiler room previously, we had an unsafe electrical socket, so the electrical socket was just hanging off. Now, I'm not a sparky, many of you investors are not going to be sort of up to standard with electrics, or something like that would scare you. It wasn't a huge issue, but again, as Tu mentioned, it was just purely poor workmanship for someone to have installed it but just left it hanging off, leaving it exposed wires. No need for it. So Lounge, sort of dining area. We've got sofa in here, we've got a table and chairs, we've got a TV. High-speed broadband has been installed. It's a business broadband, 350 meg, so everyone is going to get lightning speed. Now into the kitchen, so we're just finishing up in the actual kitchen. You guys would have seen that we had to take out the gas hob because the gas hob isn't something that we actually use in our properties, it never is. And you would have seen that we had the oven which wasn't wired in and we didn't have a extractor fan. So this is just going to be a recirculating extractor fan. At this stage in the build, I didn't want us to, be digging through any walls or making any holes, etc. So all this stuff has now been properly wired in. What we've actually had to do in order to get the electric... Okay, a handyman's fixing the back door so I can't get out. What we actually had to do though was, you would have seen where two walked in at the front door. Above where the front door, we have got the consumer unit. So we've actually had to run, instead of running sort of electrical wires and trunking throughout the whole property, potentially going through walls and sort of being unsightly, what we've actually done is ran it round the side of the house with a thick, I think it's a 10mm cable, something like that. Ran it through, actually comes through the back of here, down into here, and has provided, giving us the electrical points for the hob and the cooker. Previously, there weren't any electrical weren't any electrical points for us to plug it in, so it would have deemed these both absolutely useless, effectively. Also cleaned up some of the plumbing there for the washer dryer. Oh. So into separate WC, again fairly straightforward. And then the shower room. Now, previously the builder had put on a extractor fan, but it's actually placed too close to the shower unit. So what we've actually had to do is just change it to, I think it's IP35 or something. I'm not sure. Don't get me on the technicalities there. Can you run upstairs too?
Yep.
Let's do it. So you can see it's nice and bright, it's nice and airy, all the rooms are big. We're looking at what, 12 square meters each room too?
These are big, Victorian houses.
Yeah, huge house. So we've got this room which is probably about 15 square meters. So again, carbon copy room, nice and big, plenty of space for people to live and socialise in. It's a perfect room for us. All we've got to do now in majority of these rooms is just give it a good hoover and a good clean.
Yeah, the maintenance on these would be really good.
Into room 4. So again, fairly straightforward, nice and easy. Not too many issues with this room. To be fair, this room was one of the first that was ready, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It seemed like it was ready from
but it just moved in.
Bathroom, shower unit. So we've got 2 showers and a separate 2 shower rooms and a separate WC.
We placed it in the end, didn't we?
You would have remembered up here you could actually look through. Now you can't look through, so it's obviously good for privacy. And yes, we have replaced the shower unit. What we actually noticed when we replaced the shower unit was there was some leaks happening underneath in the diner. Couldn't really confirm where it was coming from. Looked as though it may have been coming from the guttering. What actually happened was when we removed the previous shower tray, took it out, and we could see that there was some wood that had rotted through. When we pulled it all the way back, we realised that from about here, so literally half of the room, all the way up to there too, was completely rotted out. So we've obviously had to replace those, and again, we've future-proofed it now, so we're not going to have any issues from there. Smallest room in the house, but it's still a good size. We were just commenting on this, so we see how
it's well proportioned.
It is.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So it's well proportioned. Single bed, but you have got everything that you need in here. If a tenant wants to put a TV on there, do whatever, there's plenty of space. I think, shall we talk about one of the issues that we had with the previous builder? So, we made a decision to actually change the window panes on this piece of glass. That whole unit had been changed to the whole UPVC window. These were clouded. So this window looks similar to this one. It was clouded on the inside. You got the condensation. Now, for whatever reason, our builders actually changed this panel and this pane and not this pane, which is beggar's belief, to be honest. I think it's left everybody scratching their heads why it's actually done this one and not this one. And the worst thing about it is this one was done, 2 months maybe after that window was replaced. So it was a case of constant reminders. And it was like, yes, it's happening this week, and it's not happening. So for anybody that is project managing or managing trades, what I would say is definitely be firm but fair. Make your decisions early and make them quickly. Get a feel for the builder, the tradesman, the team, however you want to call it, but get a feel for them. And if they're not carrying out certain requests or they're not making things right almost immediately or sort of within a week, alarm bells start ringing.
Yeah, they're warning signs really, aren't they?
Definitely warning signs, and you need to really start asking questions if that is the case. So other than that, again, loft room. So loft was already converted, but we had to get permanent stairs. Now, one thing that was missed from our previous builder was the handrail, which, as you know, we cannot get building reg sign off unless we had the handrail. So that's something that, again, we had to fit retrospectively. And that's it apart from it. But again, nice room. As we know, up here in the loft, all that space doesn't count as livable space, but
then usable space.
It's usable. Someone can storage, whatever the case may be, someone can use it. So I think on the next video, it will literally be the final walk round. We will have the property cleaned. It will look nice and sparkly. Everything will be ready for us to hand over to the supported accommodation company.
Have we started talking to them and they've been around?
Already started. So what we did is on Monday, I walked around with the supported accommodation provider, showed them sort of what's happening. Ultimately started to tick a few boxes off. Yeah. They're fairly happy with it. Again, we've done so many now that we understand what they need. So I'm just waiting for a few electrical certificates to come in order for me to actually book the inspection. And then it's just a case of over the next day or two, getting someone in to give it a really good clean and get the last few bits and pieces.
Cool. All right, so I think hopefully next week will be the final walkthrough, and then you can see what it looks like, sort of shiny and sparkling. Yeah. All right, see you guys.